What's good, YouTubers and YouTubettes? This is JBsports back again with another one. The aftermath of the whole Spence Jr. Terrence Crawford fiasco, as Terrence Crawford has a fight lined up for December 10th versus number 6 in the WBO, Crawford-Avaneysan. Now, I'm not going to shit on Crawford-Avaneysan like a lot of these other people are doing. They trying to downplay Crawford-Avaneysan as a fighter. They trying to make it out that he's some bum, which is not the case. He's a solid fighter. He's not Jerome Boots Ennis. He's not Virgil Ortiz Jr. He's not Keith One-Time Thurman. He's not even a Matthias Stoyanis, in my opinion. He's right below those guys who, in my opinion, are a cut below the two top dogs at 147, Errol Spence Jr. and Terrence Crawford. With all that being said, BLK Prime, you need to give those guys a chance. A lot of people out here saying that the fight is not happening, that BLK Prime don't have the funds to put up this fight, that this fight is fugazi, it's not happening. I'm not going to subscribe to that line of thinking. I'm going to give them brothers a chance to put on a good fight. Only thing I wonder is where's this fight going to be broadcast? Now, I know it's going to be on the app, but sometimes I like to go to a sports bar and watch a fight, especially if I don't want to put down money for the fight or unable to put down money for the fight because I got, money that I got to spend on other things. And that fight's going to be going down around Christmas time. So, I'm going to be getting gifts for, family and friends. I got my close family, mom and dad. I got to get gifts for them. And then I got nieces, nephews. I got 2 daughters. I got cousins, uncles, aunties. I got to give them all gifts. So I'm going to have to come out some money for Christmas, and that's gonna be right after Thanksgiving, when I'm gonna be buying turkey and dressing and stuff like that. And they're gonna be having some things going on at my relative house, but I always like to bring some food. I don't come empty-handed. With all that being said, I'm gonna be spending money elsewhere, so I'm gonna be wanting to go somewhere and watch Terrence Crawford take on Crawford-Avaneysan, but I don't know who's gonna actually have the fight. I don't know which if any of these sports bars are going to have this fight. Now, you look at the fight that's coming up this Saturday between Jake Paul and Anderson Silva. I was at a sports bar last week watching the Houston Astros play, and they already had that fight up on their calendar. I already had it up. They had a whole month of sports activities going on at the sports bar. Now, they got the month of October, and then after October's over with, they'll come with the month of November of what all sports activities they got going on each day. And they already had that Jake Paul as the Silver fights already on their calendar for October 29th. Now, I looked at the October 15th just to be curious to see if they had Deontay Wilder versus Robert Helenius. They didn't have that fight on, so if they ain't have Wilder versus Helenius, I know for damn sure they ain't gonna have Crawford versus Avaneysan. So I'm gonna have to look around and try to find a sports bar that's gonna be showing that fight on December 10th. That's going to be hard for me to imagine a sports bar even having that fight, man. But hopefully I'll be able to locate one that's going to have Terrence Crawford versus Crawford-Avaneysan. If not, I'm not going to probably be able to see that fight on December 10th. With all that being said, Errol Spence Jr. has some options. I think the PBC, it's just me talking. I don't know if this is for a fact, but I think the PBC basically got 4 fighters in the equation for potential matchups. You got Errol Spence Jr., unified welterweight champion. You have Keith Thurman, former unified welterweight champion. You have Danny Garcia, former multi-division world champion. He had title at 140 pounds. He had a title at 147 pounds. He's a multi-division world champion. And you have another multi-division world champion, Ezri Landry Lara, who has let it be known that he'll be willing to fight guys that he feel has the name recognition, like a Thurman, Garcia, or Spence, at a catch weight of 155 pounds, that he's the current regular WBA middleweight champion. I think the PBC will be looking to give Errol Spence Jr. first dibs. Ask Errol Spence Jr., do you want to stay at 147? We got a fight with Keith One-Time Thurman. That's a lucrative fight. That's a fight that you'll be able to make the money that you're accustomed to making. with the guarantee and money on the back end. Or if you saying that you can no longer make 147, that you was only willing to sacrifice your body to make 147 for Terrence Crawford, that you're moving up to 154. There's no really big names at 154 because Jermell Charlo is tied up in a undisputed matchup versus Tim Tszyu. You fight a guy like Tony Harrison, high risk, low reward. Sebastian Fundora, high risk, low reward. J. Rock Williams, I don't believe that's high risk, but that's a low reward fight as he's been basically exposed in his last couple fights. It's not a lot of appealing options at 154 outside of actually the two guys that's going to be fighting January 28th. That is Jermell Charlo and Tim Tszyu. So you can move up and fight Lara at a catch weight of 155. That'll be your other option. I think they'll give him first deals. And whatever Errol Spence Jr. decides to do, that'll be a domino effect on what happens with Keith one-time Thurman and Danny Garcia. If Errol Spence Jr. decides to fight Lara at a catch weight of 155, that will set the stage for Keith Thurman to fight Danny Garcia in a rematch at 154. Both of those fights will be pay-per-view fights. Look at what's been put on pay-per-view lately. You had Thurman versus Barrios. That was on pay-per-view. You had Luis Ortiz versus Charles Martin. That was on pay-per-view. So if those two fights are on pay-per-view with the PBC, you can best believe that Keith Thurman versus Danny Garcia will be on pay-per-view due to the purse demands by both fighters. So we will see what happens and we will see what transpires. That's if Spence decides to take on Lara at a catch weight of 155 pounds. He will have a chance to become a multi-division world champion. I know a lot of naysayers will be like, hey, man, that's not a real belt. He's got a minor league belt. He's got a secondary belt. That don't count JB Sports. Well, when and if he goes to the Hall of Fame, they gonna say multi-division world champion, and they gonna count that WBA belt, that WBA middleweight belt. They gonna count that. That's gonna be part of the accolades that they gonna say before they enshrine Errol Spence Jr. into the Hall of Fame. So if they gonna do that, then I'm gonna count that belt. Lara is a legitimate fighter, multi-division world champion. A lot of people thought he beat Canelo. A lot of people thought he beat Paul Williams. That Paul Williams was a robbery. The Canelo fight, he could have went either way. That wasn't no robbery. I thought he won the fight, but it was a lot of close rounds, and I thought he took his foot off the gas, whether it was because he kind of was weary of Canelo's power, whatever the case may be. The championship rounds, he did not put his best foot forward, and that cost him against Canelo Alvarez. With all that being said, he's a good fighter. He's lost to old Swift Herd. That was a very good fan-friendly fight, as he went toe-to-toe with one of the biggest, strongest punchers at 154 pounds, Jared Hurd, and gave a good account of himself, but came up shorter than a midget on his knees. So he can fight Lara, who's got 3 losses against top names in boxing at a catch weight of 155 pounds, or he can fight Keith Thurman at 147 pounds and defend his WBA, IBF, and WBC titles. Now, he could go up to 154 and give Danny Garcia a rematch. If that's the case, then you'll put Thurman against Lara at 155. So I think you give first dibs to Errol Spence Jr. because he is one of the biggest names at the PBC. I call the big 3 at the PBC, the 3 biggest fighters, the 3 biggest names, the 3 guys that sit at the top of the food chain under the PBC banner is Deontay Wilder, Errol Spence, and Gervonta Davis. So you give him first dibs because he is the moneymaker at 147 pounds, in and around 147 pounds. He is the kingpin, Errol Spence Jr. So whatever route he goes, then you make the fight between the other 2 guys that are part of this equation that I just mentioned, a 4-fighter equation featuring Errol Spence Jr., Keith Thurman, Danny Garcia, and Landry Lara. Now, I heard through the grapevine that Lara is already in preliminary discussions with Danny Garcia. So, you don't want Danny Garcia to feel some type of way like, hey, man, you negotiate with me. Now you done left and went and signed to fight Errol Spence Jr. You let Danny Garcia know that, look, man, you in a good position. If you don't get the Lara fight, you get the Thurman fight. So it's all based on what Errol Spence Jr. decides to do. So I think that should be part of what PBC is thinking as far as what's next for Errol Spence Jr. He's got a lot of appealing options, man, at 147, at 154. I know Jerome Boots Ennis has petitioned the IBF to take on, well, become the mandatories for Errol Spence Jr. IBF welterweight title. But from what I'm hearing, Boots is going to be coming back before the end of the year, maybe November, maybe December. Maybe he get that November 19th date, or maybe he get the December 17th date, because from what I'm hearing, Gervonta Tank Davis versus Ryan Garcia is not going to take place December 17th. They're looking at January for that fight. And I don't know, January was a great month for that fight, as Jermell Charlo has the only appealing date for that month, as you got a lot of NFL playoffs, college football, bowl and playoffs going on. The 28th is the weekend of the AFC and NFC conference championship games. So you don't have a lot going on that Saturday. And then you could put it on that week before the Super Bowl, that February 4th, that Saturday before the Super Bowl, that next Sunday, February 4th. The Super Bowl is going to be taking place February 12th. That'll be a good day for a fight, because ain't going to be nothing going on. Maybe they can put Ryan Garcia versus Tank Davis on February 4th, but Chris Mannix, who writes for Sports Illustrated, is saying that they're looking at the month of January. I don't think that's a good month to put on that fight, unless you're going to put it up heads up with Jermell Charlo versus Tim Tszyu, or maybe you put Jermell Charlo versus Tim Tszyu as the co-main event to Gervonta Tank Davis versus Ryan Garcia for January 28th. I don't see that happening. Jermell Charlo versus Tim Tszyu, those guys command huge purses in their own right, and I believe that's a main event fight. So that's an expensive pay-per-view card. You put them as a co-main event. I don't see that happening. That's the type of stuff that was happening early on with the PBC, when you had Mayweather taking on Madonna, and you had Danny Garcia versus who was he fought that guy? What's the boy that was that killer from Argentina? His name escapes me. What's the boy name? Oh man, he knocked out Lamont Peterson. Can't remember his name, but that was the co-main event. And I remember one Mayweather main event card, you had Canelo Alvarez versus Sugar Shane Mosley as the co-main event. Those days are long gone. You're not gonna see that now. You ain't gonna see that now. It's a different atmosphere that the PBC and the boxing world in general is dealing with. So you're not gonna see those type of main event cards. So we will see what happens, and we will see what transpires. But Spence got first dibs. Does he go the route of fighting Lowry at 155, or does he stay at 147 and take on Pete one-time Thurman? Or maybe does he go up to 154 and take on Danny Garcia, get him the rematch? Because Garcia had a lot of excuses after their first fight, saying that, he's the type of person, he don't like to be, in one place where he can't go nowhere. He be dealing with demons and all kind of different stuff that he'd be dealing with mentally, he was saying. And he said he wasn't mentally right going until the Errol Spence Jr. fight, that he'll be ready to go. Now that, we not, fighters show up in fights, they ain't got to be, basically in a bubble, can't go nowhere now. They free to move around, stuff like that, and he'll be in a better frame of mind, Danny Garcia, for the rematch at 154. So that could be a possibility. But you give your one of your top fighters, Errol Spence Jr., those options on what he should do next, and it'll be a domino effect on what transpires after that. But that is my opinion. That's what I think is likely for Errol Spence Jr. Follow me on Facebook, Gerard.Briscoe.3551. Like, share, and subscribe to JB Sports. The man, the myth, the legend. And I holla.